Hi, everybody. I'm Bernstein with another one of our quick hits videos. And on this one, I want to talk about how well the beginning portion of 2018 already is shaping up for the sport of boxing. Now, I'm not trying to put this year to bed quite yet because we still have some terrific fights coming up in 2017. But it's important to talk about what's going to happen early in 2018 for a couple of reasons. This year, 2017, has been, in my opinion, the best year boxing has had since 2013. That year was the best year boxing had had in well over 20 years. And 2017 is just as good as 2013. I'm going to say it's a push between which one was better for the sport. We had superb matches. We had, in 2017, we've had champions unifying belts. We've had, God forbid, promoters working with each other, not as much as we'd like to see, but still a beginning in any case. We've seen networks show a great commitment to putting on good boxing. All the things that we kind of want to see more of in the sport of boxing. And 2017 has been really good for that. Now, 2013 was good for it, but boxing, as boxing often does, didn't quite take advantage of that by extending it on to the following years, and the intervening years were okay, but never approached 2013. So the key for the sport, it would seem to me, is to pick up on that momentum. Well, we have evidence and an indication that that may well be the case. And that's why I want to talk about some of the things that we already know are going to happen in early 2018 to kind of give us an idea of where that year could head and whether the sport can take advantage of the momentum it built in 2017. We start off with a fight that brings back somebody who had a terrific 2017, who showed us what he's capable of. Errol Spence Jr., who won the IBF world title against Kell Brook in England, in Sheffield, in front of over 30,000 partisan fans of Kell Brook. He will take on Lamont Peterson, a former 140-pound champion and a fighter who has a version of the WBA welterweight title. For Spence, rather, it's him coming back since that fight in May with Brook, where it was a breakout performance. You know, the early part of the fight was very close. Kell Brook's a terrific fighter, and it would figure to be a huge challenge for Spence Jr. But once we hit round 7, it was no contest. Spence Jr.'s power, aggression just kept taking control of the fight. He would end up stopping Kell Brook, which was pretty extraordinary. And now he steps back in the ring in January against Lamont Peterson. And don't sleep on Lamont Peterson, a 33-year-old veteran, yes, but someone whose last loss was to Danny Garcia back in 2015 in a fight that many believe Peterson won. So Lamont Peterson, in terms of style and skill set, should give Errol Spence all he needs to think about in January. That should be a terrific fight. Then a rematch is scheduled. It will be held likely sometime in January between David Benavides and Ronald Gavrilo, one of the Fight of the Year candidates for 2017. This is a rematch of these two men in which David Benavides became a champion at age 20. This Phoenix resident who is wildly exciting as a fighter, very talented, very powerful, had never been 12 rounds, was forced to go 12 rounds by Gavrilo, won a split decision. Two of the judges had it very big for Benavides, 116-111 and 117-111, but another judge had it 116-111 for Gavrilo. I would suggest every one of those scorecards were wrong. This was a 2 or 3 point fight either way. I thought maybe Benavides deserved to get the nod, but not by the 2 margins. The judges had it, and I didn't think Gavrilo would have won this fight by 5 points if he had gotten the nod. But in any case, the nature of those scoring shows that this was a competitive and difficult fight. And Gavrilo, the 31-year-old from Romania, who's now training in the Mayweather gym in Las Vegas, showed he is an elite 168-pound fighter. Now, we're going to get, in a moment, we're going to get to the 168-pound tournament that's being held in the World Boxing Super Series. And these two fighters, not in that tournament, but they might both have opponents, no matter what happens in this rematch. Both men may have some interesting opponents coming their way from that tournament. This fight is guaranteed fireworks. There is no way it won't be a great fight. The first one was a great fight, and I think the second one will be as well. So props to them for making this second fight. I alluded to the World Boxing Super Series. Well, they have a doozy coming up in January of 2018. George Grosz, the WBA super middleweight champion, taking on the IBF superweight champion, Chris Eubank Jr., in what could be one of the biggest fights in Great Britain of all of 2018. It will be wildly anticipated, and already is. This will be in the semifinals of the 168-pound tournament for the World Boxing Super Series, and the interest is unflagging for this. George Grosz beat Jamie Cox in the quarterfinals to win his way into the semifinal match, stopped Cox. It was an exciting fight early, and then Grosz took control. That was his sixth straight win since he had that close decision loss to Badu Jack a few years ago. And Chris Eubank Jr. at 28, 26-1 with 20 KOs, coming into this fight off a really impressive performance against Avni Yildirim. He starched him to win that fight. It was exciting while it lasted, but Eubank just starched him early in that fight. He is a fighter who many people believe, in terms of his physical skill set, like his father, who's a great fighter, has some unlimited potential. And at 28, he's starting to really come into his prime. And he and Grosz should be a tremendous matchup with a huge crowd looking on, most likely in England. Then, early in 2018, probably in March, Abner Mares and Leo Santa Cruz will fight their rematch of the fight that they fought in 2015, which ended up being a majority win for Leo Santa Cruz. He won two scorecards, 117, 111, and then the other scorecard was a draw for the two fighters. It was an action-packed fight, a wild slugfest, but ultimately the Santa Cruz height and reach and boxing skills kind of took control of that fight. Well, since then, Abner Mares has changed trainers to take on Robert Garcia in that role. And to be perfectly candid, and I did Mares' fight with Jesus Cuellar, Abner Mares is, sometimes we overplay this when there's a change in trainers. Mares is fighting differently. He's back to being a very, I always thought Abner Mares was at his best when he was a boxer-puncher, not just a brawler. And at various times during his career, we've seen a chameleon-like change from him in which he's either one of those. And he is now, Abner Mares, the boxer-puncher. And I think that's going to help him in this fight with Santa Cruz. This will be an exciting matchup. There's no question about it, no matter what style is employed by these two fighters. So that's one that boxing fans want to see. That's for the super featherweight title. Now we move our attention back to the World Boxing Super Series, which, if you can't tell already, I'm a big fan of. I think it's fantastic for the sport of boxing. Alexander Usyk taking on Mario Briedis in the semifinals, in which we now just have champions left for the semifinals. They're all champions. They're all fantastic fighters. Cruiserweight tournament is shaking out, just as I think many people hoped, with some phenomenal matchups. Usyk is the WBO champion, 30 years old. He has only had 13 professional fights after a long amateur career, 11 by KOs. He is a thunderous, murderous puncher who beat Marco Huck in the semifinals or quarterfinals to get to the semifinals. He is a destroyer in the ring. Mario Briedis, 32-year-old, he's 23-0. He's got 18 KOs. He's got pop, but he is more of a boxer-puncher, and he won by beating Mike Perez in the quarterfinals. So Briedis' job is to control the tempo of this fight, certainly land. He thinks he can hurt Usyk, but he's got to keep it at a somewhat controlled pace. Alexander Usyk is an attacker, and if you let him take control of the fight, he will just dominate you physically. And I believe this is a fascinating matchup, partially because their styles are slightly differently. Usyk is a left-hander, and as I said, he's a madman in the ring. He comes to destroy you. Now, in the other semifinal, Benevides Gassiev and Junior Dorticos. Dorticos, the Cuban fighter who won with an impressive KO in the first quarterfinals of this tournament, and Gassiev, who won in his match. They are coming in, and I think that is exactly the same kind of fight as the one I just discussed. Gassiev is a boxer-puncher, has power, trained by Abel Sanchez, the trainer of Gennady Golovkin, who believes Gassiev is the next great thing in boxing, literally. Gassiev has already talked about moving up to heavyweights after he wins this tournament. Confident. Dorticos is like Usyk, is a destroyer. And he is a very powerful puncher who will be looking to take Gassiev's head off. You couldn't ask for two better semifinal matchups in this World Boxing Super Series in the cruiserweight division, because the styles are slightly different. You have four men, all have pop in their punches. They are all aggressive fighters, and they all highly motivated to win this tournament. Now, what's the message of all these fights that I've mentioned? And there are more certainly going to be announced in the coming weeks and months before 2017 is over. Just these fights alone give us an indication that the same mentality is moving forward that the sport of boxing has had. I'm not a cheerleader for the sport. I cover it, so I'm not trying to be some kind of spin doctor on behalf of the sport. But objectively speaking, this is what boxing needs to move forward. And it had it in 2017. It started in January, it just has continued on. And again, as I say, we still have so many really good weekends of boxing left before the year is up. So these kinds of fights with other ones dotted into the schedule show us that the first quarter of 2018, at least on paper, looks like it's going to be a continuation of 2017. And for everybody that enjoys the sport of boxing, that can be nothing but good. Thanks for joining me on this Quick Hits.